Good morning to the Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, online viewers, radio listeners via St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM and respective radio stations island-wide. I'm Rulaika Roach and welcome to the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, June 17th, 2020. At this time, I would like to invite the Minister of Tourism, Economic Affairs, Transport and Telecommunication, the Honorable Ludmila De Wever, to address you. I would also like to make mention that Minister De Wever will be leaving the press briefing right after her opening remarks. Minister De Wever, you have the floor.
Good morning, Honorable. Thank you, Ms. Roach. Good morning, Honorable Prime Minister, colleague ministers, members of the press, Ms. Roach, and the listening and viewing public. This morning, I want to provide an update on the activities of the Ministry of TEAT over the last week. We have, as of Monday, June 15th, we entered into our phase 4 of the reopening plan. Therefore, all businesses can reopen with the proper contingency plans in place. That way we can have our economic activity being resumed on the island. The Ministry of TEAT is currently working on our path to economic recovery and having taken into consideration the last 3 months, the effects of the pandemic over the last 3 months. On another note, we would like to inform the public that payments for business director and branch license fees for the year 2020 can now be paid at the receiver's office. In collaboration with Postal Services St. Martin, the department has begun dispersing invoices via postal mail last week. Upon payment of the license fees, the receiver's office will issue an extension of the licenses for the year 2020. As we enter our new normal, e-governance is becoming more essential, and for this reason, we are looking forward to having the submission of license applications online from your home or office using a web portal-based system or using mobile devices. I look forward to announcing the official launch date once the system is ready to go live. We believe initiatives like these will increase the ease of doing business on the island. In regards to reopening the island for visitors and nationals, we have been collaborating with the Ministry of VSA and the Ministry of Justice and working diligently behind the scenes to develop the best policy for reopening. St. Martin to visitors and keeping everyone healthy and safe. The Tourism Bureau is working with stakeholders on a tourism recovery plan, which will be taken into consideration with our path to economic recovery. That's being done from our cabinet as well as Economic Affairs Department. We want to ensure that visitors know that we are as safe an island as possible, and we will demonstrate that through by ways that we can keep our COVID-19 free status. One of the things I'm sure that you will get an update on after is from the Minister of VSA's guidelines and requirements on how we are going to receive guests through our airport. To date, nationals and visitors, to date, St. Martin residents are allowed to come from Saba, St. Eustatius, Bonaire, Curaçao, Aruba, Anguilla, St. Bart's, Martinique, and Guadeloupe without having, if they have remained in that country for 21 days, and when they return to the island, they do not require quarantine. Nationals and visitors not coming from the countries I have mentioned are not yet allowed to come. The full details of the requirements for returning citizens will be released again further. One thing I would like to reiterate is that before the end of the month, we will be opening to more islands in the region that have been COVID-free for 21 days or that have no new COVID-19 cases for 21 days or more. We are still looking at an early date in July for reopening. That is contingent on the fact that we receive all the testing that we will require as visitors come to the island. But I believe that Minister of VSA will be able to provide more information on that, and we will have a press release in conjunction with his announcement. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister De Wever, for your opening remarks. At this time, I would like to invite the Minister of Justice, the Honorable Anna Richardson, to address you. I would also like to mention that Minister Richardson will be leaving as well after she makes her opening remarks. Minister Richardson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Rulaika. Good morning, Prime Minister, colleague ministers, support staff, DCOM, those tuning in online or listening via radio. I would like to hereby inform the general public that the Office of the Immigration and Border Protection Services has resumed service to the general public as of today, Wednesday, June 17, 2020, and will operate until further notice appointments only. The office will be in service from Monday to Thursday from 8:30 a.m. to 11:45 a.m. and then 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. To schedule an appointment and or for inquiries, please feel free to call 543-0369, 543-0353, 543-0354, or 543-0355. Or you can feel free to send an email to immigration@stmartin, SINTMAARTEN, gov.org. On Monday, June 15th, key civil servants of the Ministry of Justice and the Ministry of Public Health, Social Development and Labor, VSR, and their respective legal counsel met during a closed-door meeting, with the sole objective to deliberate on the plans to commission a specialized task force that will take the lead in executing the principles of the LTU, or the Ordinance on Admittance and Expulsion, and the LAV, or the Ordinance of Foreign Labor, as it regards to the protection of our borders. Both Minister of Justice and Minister of VSR echoed the sentiments of the Council of Ministers that the execution of this initiative will be done in line with international human rights, maintaining dignity for all. Protection of all residents, whether documented or undocumented, is also an important facet of this initiative, with an aim to ensure that neither person nor institutions are misused for the unlawful access to permits, whether that be employment or residence. A commitment to communicate on the way forward. The plan and the phases of the execution will be communicated to the general public by DCOM, and persons are encouraged to follow these press releases on Government St. Martin website and social media platforms. I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you to the Minister of VSR and to the members within granted permission. I will not do so. I know who they are. It's better to join immigration than and elements political and social. I am hearing so much. I'm hearing those who understand the importance of adhering to our laws. This is not the ANA policy. This is our immigration structure. And I want to thank the people with no discrimination. No ethnicity here is excluded. Right is right and wrong is wrong. And this minister is only seeking to structure things properly for St. Martin. And for those who are of the opinion that we have been so welcoming, we have been so relaxed, and to this point, there is offense taken, I am saying to you that the objective here is not injustice, but it is about justice. Justice for those who have migrated to St. Martin and have done nothing but been upstanding residents and citizens of this country. Justice for nationals of St. Martin who deserve a proper chance in the only place they have to call home. We have been welcoming, and I want to say thank you to those who have respected the laws of St. Martin, and you love St. Martin, but you see those who are taking a negative stance on this, you are the ones who we are asking to leave. I will have some future updates to come, but this minister is not backing down. I'm going to excuse myself now because I have some pressing matters, and I'm sorry I'm not here for questions, but future statements will be coming. I'm wishing everybody a pleasant day and stay safe.
Thank you, Minister Richardson, for your opening remarks and bidding you a pleasant day as well. At this time, I would like to invite the Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport, the Honorable Dr. Anders Rudolph Samuel, to address you. Minister Samuel, you have the floor.
Thank you, Rolika. Good morning, PM. Good morning to my colleague ministers. Good morning to all those of the media and all the persons who are listening to the press briefing. Today, you can read in the newspaper that the students of the Milton Peters College and the Sundial School have done very well on their exams. And for this, I would like to say congratulations to them. I know some time back they were concerned whether or not they had sufficient time in order to do the exams. But today they can see that they have done it on their own strength with the time that was allotted to them. And for this, I would say to them an extra congratulations. Yes, we have other students who are resitting some exams, some tests, and to those, I would also like to say success. And in the end, we will see all the results that have come in, and then we will move forward. So congratulations to those who have already have their final exams, and success to those who still have to do a few resits. On July 1st, this year, 2020, we all know it will be Emancipation Day. The ministry, in collaboration most naturally with the Department of Culture, is busy having discussions on what the day would be. We know we have to deal with the new normal that has to do with the virus, but we will come up with a very, very nice program that will be fitting for commemorating our Emancipation Day. I would like to take this opportunity at this moment to remind the people of St. Martin that we want the economy of St. Martin to come back. We want the economy of St. Martin to be strong. And in one way, the people can contribute in doing this is to adhering to the measures of keeping social distance, the measures of continue to sanitize, wash your hands, and the measures that will indicate to wear your mask. We want the economy of St. Martin to open. We need the economy of St. Martin to open. And we can keep the economy of St. Martin open if all of us on St. Martin, including our visitors, keep the responsibility at our own. So when we are responsible and we behave responsible, we can keep St. Martin virus-free and our economy can come back and be what it is and what it's supposed to be. So I'm just reminding the public at large that we are happy that St. Martin is where St. Martin is at this moment, but that we must continue to be vigilant and help us all to keep St. Martin virus-free. I thank you, and I will await whatever questions we have.
Thank you, Minister Samuel, for your opening remarks. At this time, I would like to invite the Minister of Public Health, Social Development and Labor, the Honorable Richard Panafleck, to address you. Minister Panafleck, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Good morning to the members of the Council of Ministers. Good morning to all the media members. Good morning, St. Martin. This morning, I have the following announcements to make. As we are currently on 0 active COVID-19 cases, I would like to request the general public to continue to keep the measures that we had been taken since the beginning, meaning keeping your social distance, practice proper coughing and sneezing etiquette, wash and sanitize your hands regularly, and wear your mask when you are in public places. I would like to request everyone to continue to keep, you have to maintain the necessary requirements. It's for your own safety and health. So the mere fact that government is saying that we are going in phases which we are more open, that don't mean that you have to leave your guard down. But on the contrary, you have to keep it up so that we can keep your health and the entire St. Martin health safe. Furthermore, the preparations are being done so that we can open back the borders. From the health side, the necessary preparations are taking place. The COM will decide, and once that is approved, we will make it known to the general public and for all to know what all are the requirements that one have to follow going to the airport, be in the vicinity in the airport, or traveling through the airport and coming back in. Furthermore, I would like to inform the general public that the draft law ROV, that is the pension funds of SZV, has been sent to the Council of Advice for their advice, whereas afterwards, if there's any necessary, the necessary adaptations will be done so that it can be offered to Parliament for the enforcing and dealing with it so that it can become law. It will basically have to do with the raise of the pension age from 62 to 65, and this seeing that the people are living longer, thank God for that, and that they will be able to work longer also, and that the funds could then be carried for a long period of time. I have to say there are some increases of the payment, but the further details will be dealt with once the law comes out and is being dealt with in Parliament. I would like to continue to emphasize on one and all to maintain and keep the required social distancing, keeping themselves safe, sanitize their hands, and when you're feeling sick, don't come out, call your physician, indicate what you're feeling, take care of yourself and your loved ones, and take care of the community of St. Martin in general. I would like to thank you for your attention, and I'll wait for further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Panafleck, for your opening remarks. At this time, I would like to invite the Minister of Finance, the Honorable Archibald Edion, to address you. Minister Edion, you have the floor.
Good morning to my colleagues, the media, and to the viewing public. I am pleased to announce that the payments for the SSRP are going even more smoothly now that the most of the people are in the system. Thus far, for income and unemployment support, 991 applications have been screened with a total of 471,000 guilders being paid out. I would like to remind you, the public, that the deadline to apply for income support has been extended to June 22nd. So please apply as soon as possible. Be sure to have all of the valid documentation to avoid having the payment to you being delayed. You can find all the necessary information related to documents for the income support on the website ssrp.sx. I would also like to briefly touch on a recent topic that came up, I believe, a couple of days ago in relation to vacation pay. As was mentioned previously and numerous times in the meetings with the unions, that once no decision has been made in relation to vacation pay, we cannot begin the process of payroll because we cannot change the system. So we started I believe payroll was supposed to be done about 2 weeks ago. And because there was a delay, a 4 to 5 day delay in the decision making between the unions and government, there was and will be a delay in the payment of vacation pay. Also, to note that the Department of Loan Saladas is also now understaffed. They are doing their best to get the payroll up and running as soon as possible. Another, as I would say, a rumor that came up was that the Minister of Finance is planning to put the vacation pay with your salary as one payment so that government could take out more taxes and pay out less. Again, I have no idea where these stories are coming from, but again, that too is untrue. For all valid information, please inquire within the ministry, go to the website, and I'm hoping that more honest and truthful information could get out to the public from now on and not cause any mass hysteria on non-factual information. That'll be all for today, and I look forward to the questions from the media.
Thank you, Minister Adian, for your opening remarks. At this time, I would like to invite the Prime Minister and Minister of General Affairs, the Honorable Silveira Jacobs, to address you. Prime Minister, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Rolika. Good morning to you. Good morning to my colleague ministers this morning here, as well as those that had to leave. Good morning to the press. Good morning to DCOM for being so diligent always. Thank you always for being able to broadcast with us. People of St. Martin, good morning. This morning, I've already taken note that several of the ministers taking their responsibility very seriously and going beyond. I must thank you and commend you. As was stated earlier in the press, since June 11th, since June 12th, St. Martin has had no active cases of COVID-19. There are no patients at hospital at the moment with COVID-19 related symptoms or illness. Notably, we've also only had one positive case in the last 50 days and absolutely no new cases for the last 37 days. So that is more than a month. And we're very, very happy of that. Of course, as Minister of TIAT mentioned, we are slowly reopening. Residents and or technical assistants have been arriving over the past few weeks and months. And we have been doing our due diligence with everyone that has been arriving. It has not always gone as smoothly as we would like, but we continue to ask persons to be very, very responsible and stay in contact with CPS if for some reason they did not go into our quarantine facility. As Minister TIAT also mentioned, we have opened up St. Martin to, let's say, countries such as ours that have no cases or have not had new cases in the past 21 days. And that's our sister islands within the Dutch Kingdom, as well as St. Bart's, Anguilla. And we are looking at adding some other countries within the Caribbean region to facilitate that they can travel to St. Martin as well. Of course, upholding our protocols and other measures that we have in place. I would like to thank especially the Department of Foreign Affairs as they continue to monitor all requests to re-enter St. Martin from our St. Martin residents, especially our students. I know there are several students really, desperate to come home. And I have forwarded the contact information of several airlines that are willing to do so. And hopefully soon they can be facilitated as well to come home as soon as possible, as well as those other residents still stuck abroad. I would like to join the Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport in congratulating all the students who have passed their exams, who have sat their exams, because to even sit them is a blessing. As mentioned, some may have resits, some may have failed, but what is known is that you can always pick yourself back up from wherever you are and work harder to achieve your goals. Congratulations, of course, to all of those who have successfully passed, and I wish each and everyone much strength as they continue along their path. The journey is definitely not over for any of us. And those that will be sitting the CXC exams in June, much success to you as well. And I wish you and your teachers and staff, management and board much success as we move forward. On Saturday, June 13th, the government of St. Martin celebrated Flag Day with the people of St. Martin as much as we could, with our social distancing rules still in effect and with our state of emergency still in effect. As such, we had to postpone the motorcade, which will be rescheduled at a later date so that we can give honor where honor is due to all frontliners. And every day that goes by, we realize maybe the delay was good because we keep adding persons who should also be recognized. And by the time we get it done, I'm sure that it will be a great endeavor indeed. As we had mentioned before, we would hope that the persons along the side of the road would come out and show honor. Of course, not putting yourself in any danger if you're around persons you do not know. Continue to uphold the safety regulations that we have been upholding for the last 2 months that have kept us or allowed our cases to go down rapidly and allowed us to be COVID-free today. As Prime Minister of this country, yesterday, May 16th, I held a meeting with State Secretary Knox, which was organized and chaired by him, a bilateral meeting. We were unable to meet last week due to glitches within both our schedules, as well as not being updated in a timely fashion as to the agenda. However, we were able to meet yesterday, and Minister Arian, based on the fact that we were discussing the way forward or moving forward towards finalization of the conditions, etc., among others, was necessary to be in that meeting. The State Secretary, I believe, as well as I believe my colleague can concur, did not have all of the necessary information and behaved in a very unbecoming manner that as Kingdom partners, we were very much taken aback. I believe that as Kingdom partners, we should treat each other with mutual respect, and that certainly did not happen during this meeting. The information provided by St. Martin on the agenda was immediately disregarded by the State Secretary, and key to that would be our long discussion on our 2019 capital investment funds, which were approved and to date have not been subscribed to by the Dutch government, as the priority is always there. They have the right of first refusal, and it's approved, CFT approved since 2019, and to date, nothing. And these funds are very, very important for our rebuilding, especially where it pertains to the prison. So we still look forward to having a follow-up to this conversation. Much of what we brought forward was simply rejected as irrelevant to the discussion, and several falsehoods in general were sent our way at St. Martin. While we continue to communicate our position and findings openly, honestly, and in a transparent manner to our Kingdom partners, State Secretary Knox made comments that I, as Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers, were being uncooperative with the steering committee for the Trust Fund of St. Martin, implying that communication with the Cabinet Jacobs was difficult. That statement is absolutely incorrect, as I have had several meetings with the World Bank Country Director Tahseen Sayed, as well as the NRPB, and St. Martin's representative on the steering committee, Mr. Marcel Gomes. As a matter of fact, on May 28th, the COM received a presentation on the St. Martin Emergency Debris Management Project from the above-mentioned person. I even sat in on a World Bank mission pertaining to the e-governance program last week. The tone of what did happen is that on Friday last, the request for a meeting with the steering committee, an informal one at that, was sent forward, and we are busy trying to plan it in with our schedule. So to be told that you're being uncooperative in such a manner was definitely a slap in the face of the people of St. Martin, who have done everything, and I mean everything, to live up to conditions set on us by previous agreements with previous governments. We have maintained those agreements. We have done our best. We have encouraged and promoted that the speed with which the operations are happening speed up, as well as our parliament has done such. As such, the meeting ended quite abruptly was ended quite abruptly by the State Secretary, and I have already sent a letter to the Kingdom Council of Ministers regarding these events, and I hope that the Prime Minister, my colleague, Mark Rutte, will investigate this matter and will remain open for us to continue to dialogue as colleagues on equal footing to be able to take St. Martin forward in a decent and respectful manner, whereby even if we disagree, we can do so with respect. So I look forward to hearing from, I've also CC'd the BZK Minister, Ms. Kasha Olongren, who I've also noted in the press has some very good things to say about being respectful and understanding each other's perspectives. So I do look forward to further conversations related to St. Martin, related to the World Bank and the Wederopbouw, related to the conditions that have been set that St. Martin is working and struggling to, along with the other kingdom countries within the Caribbean, to meet. So if there are any further questions on this, I'll be open to that. But from our representative department, Buck, who also sits in on those meetings, I must say, and continues to collaborate with the Ministry of BZK. Thank you, Angelique. They have spearheaded a single-use plastic logo competition, which was supposed to kick off during Carnival. And the final winner was chosen. Akila Pemberton of the St. Martin Academy is the winner. And the second place winner is Noor Masood of the Methodist Agagig Center. So these two youngsters, sounds like two females, will be awarded their prizes in a ceremony at a later date. We would like to thank all of the students and others who participated in this competition as we promote minimizing our use of plastic here on St. Martin, as we promote going green and taking care of our environment. It will take each and every one of us. Buck would like to thank all the supporters, parents, teachers, and of course the participants for their support and interest in promoting St. Martin plastic free by 2023. And I'm hoping that everyone can buy into that as well. I would like to also bring some clarity to the discussions. I believe Minister Finance clarified clearly that there is no, moving away from agreements by government. Everything that has been put to paper has been discussed at length with the unions in several meetings held from May 7th up until most recently June 15th. Sorry, not June 15th. When we met with the White Clue. Was that June 15th? No, that was not June 15th. I will have to look back on the date. But last week, we held meetings with the White Clue and all of the other councils of unions in a similar meeting to what had been held with government civil servants representatives, which were the Y2 and the PSU, WICSU PSU. Based on letters now, because I'm hearing that that is a new issue, the letter of June 1st from government, and this was after a meeting held on May 28th, which was very, very lengthy, up until 11 p.m. at night, whereby we were both able to see each other and come to conclusions, and government felt that the unions were in solidarity with our united fight with the outside. And the letter was sent on June 11th. We responded again, and on Monday, June 15th, the unions received that response. So the meeting with the WICLU was on the 9th. I was just giving that information. So we have had several meetings. We have been in communication and collaboration with the unions. The agreement was made for the vacation pay 50% this year and 50% next year. And of course, as Minister explained, the process to get that done could not start on time, because had we had a decision on the 1st of June, 2nd of June, it would have been possible by the 15th of June to pay out, but that was not the case. And we all know that our agreements only were finalized last week. So we would like to give the Department of Salary and Wages the opportunity to finalize the process, and it will not be lumped together with our June payment. So thanking all civil servants for your understanding. And if more information is needed, together with the Minister of Finance, I'm sure we'll be able to organize a meeting to further enlighten our civil servants as to what can be expected in the weeks and months to come. I would like also for the people of St. Martin to understand that our Minister of Justice, our Minister of Finance continues to fight and struggle on a daily basis with the CFT in order for St. Martin to not only receive funds to be able to meet our payroll, but also to be able to help those persons with the SSRP. That is the goal of St. Martin's government at this moment, and we thank the civil servants for their understanding at this time. I would like to remind everyone, as Minister Viasa and ECYS said, to be safe, keep our protocols up so that we can remain COVID-free as long as possible. And if COVID does make its way here, that we are still, as a community, protecting ourselves on a daily basis. Thank you.
Prime Minister Jacobs, for your opening remarks. If you've just joined us, you are watching the live Council of Ministers press briefing. Thank you for joining us. We now move on to the question and answer session, and I would like to invite Jeffrey Socran of Island 92 Radio. You have the floor. Dr. Sock, if you can hear me, can you kindly unmute your mic, please? We're not hearing you. Sock, we're still not hearing you.
How about now, Rolika? Any better?
No. Yes.
Okay. Found the setting that got turned off. Sorry about that. Good morning to all of the Council of Ministers. It's always a pleasure to be here. Good morning, Prime Minister. It's always a pleasure to see you and hear your updates, and I appreciate that. This question is perhaps not an easy one, and I'd like to direct it, if I might, to Mr. Panafleck from VSA. In a previous Council of Ministers press briefing, we were told that protocols would be published by the 15th of June as it related to travel back to St. Martin, and that a subsequent announcement would come from the Minister of TIAT with regard to the opening of the airport, which would not be before the 1st of July. And here we are now on June 17th, where the outside world is waiting, and we've really said nothing. And quite frankly, we're losing tourists every day that are making plans to go to other islands. And while they'll likely come back to us, when can we expect to have an announcement? When will we know what the protocols will be? And how do we ensure that we don't have these kind of oopses along the way in the future, so that when we say we're going to publish something to the outside world and then don't say anything, it makes us, the collective island, not look so good. And God knows I've been one of the biggest cheerleaders of St. Martin for years and years and years. So I'm curious as to what the protocols will be and when they will be announced, and when we can expect to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Sock. Minister Panafleck.
Thank you. As I mentioned in my opening regard, as soon as it is dealt with by the Council of Ministers and approved, it will be made known. It's ready to be approved. I had a conversation with the Prime Minister. After this press briefing, we will have an extraordinary Council of Ministers to attend that point, and then after that, if approved, it will be immediately make known so that everybody knows about it. But basically, let me tell you something, because this don't have only to regarding the opening. Everybody knows by now that the basic requirements that is being requested for all of us, from us to adhere to the requirements of keeping the social distancing when you're in a crowded community of places where a lot of people are there, for your own safety and for others to have masks on and all those kind of things. The other specifics that will have to deal with travelers from people coming abroad, that is the part that will be discussed, and once approved will be made known too. It ain't so much more things because it have to do more with the people of travelers, but those of us that are right now busy with those kind of things basically knows all the requirements, because there are much of those requirements are WHO requirements that they advise countries to do when they're opening. And so it will be nothing out of exceptional, but like it is. It has to be dealt with in the Council of Ministers, and as soon as that is done, it will be made known. So maybe this afternoon self, depending on the outcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Minister Panafleck. Thank you, Dr. Sock, for that question. I would now like to invite Bibi Shah of SMA News. You have the floor.
First, I want to make a statement. Rolika, I don't know if you can pass the message on to the Minister of Justice. I don't know if it's on my end or if it's on her end, but I hardly hear anything that she was saying. It was really bad.
It's on our end, Bibi, and we already have IT looking into it.
Okay, so if she could send us the statement, I'd appreciate that very much. Besides that, I'll go straight into my question. I will like to address my question both to the Prime Minister, because she's taking questions, I believe, for Minister De Wever, and maybe Minister Panafleck, if he can chip in on this. Currently, we have a strike taking place at the Princess Juliana International Airport. Workers are protesting along with the ABVO. Information reaching me is that the workers, along with ABVO, sent a letter to the ministers yesterday and to the boards of the airport. Prime Minister, can you give us such light as to what are some of the grievances, other than what I know, based on the letter that you received yesterday? The information I got, they're protesting the proposed cuts, salary cuts that they've been complaining about, their vacation pay, bonus, and other cuts that they're facing. Can you give us shed some light as to what's going on right now at Princess Juliana International Airport?
Okay, thank you for that question. As a matter of fact, Minister of TIAT De Wever left because of that. So she went to deal with that situation. I wouldn't dare to want to answer as to what's happening at the moment as I am here. All I know is that just what you reported, that there was some action taking place there. As you know, we had our own challenges here as well. We do understand that government-owned companies, workers, etc., may be feeling taken aback by what's going on pertaining to the conditions and the cuts, etc., that have been proposed. But I would like to reiterate that several of these government-owned companies were already in financial problems prior to the conditions being set and had already made plans. As we know, we were presented way before conditions and discussion had with how Winair resolved their lack of liquidity and their due to lack of flights and lack of having anything that, that would bring in the type of money that would be able to sustain their workers. The reality is that the airport was already not on 100% capacity, that despite all of that, they were maintaining all of their employees. I cannot say what is the situation then, but based on our meetings held with the boards, with management, etc., they were already planning to make cuts. The 12.5% required by the conditions could be worked into it, but they had already proposed even more cuts based on the fact that they do not have liquidity. They, in fact, required assistance from the SSRP. So the Minister of Finance could go further into that as well, because I don't know the details of any individual company, including our own, because it is a lot to be dealing with at this time, and everyone has their own responsibility in it. But the most I can say is, if workers are disgruntled, it is because they're talking about things that have been a long time, that they've been waiting for in a long time, and the management and board will have to answer to the employees as to that. The reality of the situation is, as with Winair, as with other government-owned companies that rely on income to be able to pay their employees, there is a lack of income at the moment. That is the reality. So we will wait to hear when the minister gets back how and exactly what is being asked, what is being proposed, and how they expect to move forward, especially seeing that currently we had 2 meetings with the airport regarding the reopening of the airport. And that is very, very important for St. Martin's economy. So of course, we would like to have this dealt with as quickly as possible with understanding on both sides. And that we look forward to hearing from the Minister of TIAT on.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you, Bibi, for that question. Are there any other ministers that would like to chime in on that question? Minister Panafleck or Minister Edion? Minister Panafleck.
Yes. Thank you. On that question, I don't know if it's related or not, but I have an appointment with the WICLU this afternoon at 2 o'clock to listen to their agenda, but I guess that's a separate agenda of what they are bringing in to what is going on right now, because as the Minister of Labor, Mrs. Elshot, representing the WICLU, had requested a meeting from long before, but because we were dealing with the COVID situations and everything that is related to that, I requested her to postpone it. So I promised her that this week I will sit on the table with her and to listen to her concerns and which that might be, and then have the discussions, necessary discussion meeting, and then we will go further from that.
Thank you, Minister Panafleck. Minister Edion?
Thank you. I believe the Prime Minister elaborated enough on the airport situation. I will mention again that the airport did tell us that they were going to make cuts even if they were in Dutch conditions. And there was even a possibility that the cuts would have been even more than was required by the Dutch conditions for the reasons given, and the obvious reasons, obviously, of not having tourists or flights coming in.
Thank you, Minister Edion. Once again, Bibi, thank you for that question. I would like to inform the members of the media that we will be having 2 rounds of questions. Stephen Sorelin of PJD2 Radio, you have the floor.
Good morning to you, Ms. Roach. Good morning to you, Council of Ministers. My question is for the Prime Minister. The Supervisory Board of TLM Group is requesting a meeting with you as shareholder rep of the company to discuss pending matters, including the financial position of the company and the general state of affairs of its operations. Have you gotten such a request? And B, are you able to say when last was an operational audit carried out at the company?
Thank you for that question, Stephen. Good morning to you. And I will have to get back to you on both questions. We receive, and when persons send letters to whether it is a council of ministers or a minister directly, sometimes it is handled by the organization before it actually gets to the minister. So seeing as I wouldn't want to say yes and I didn't get it, and I wouldn't want to say no and it's been received and it's somewhere being handled within the organization. So I would like to reserve the opportunity to answer this at a later stage, both parts of the question. I know that they have submitted something. I saw it also in the, let's say, in the press. The actual letter related to that, I am not sure if it has been received. It was not handled yesterday in our Council of Ministers for sure. We do have a portion of our agenda that deals with incoming documents, and that was not one of them. So if I have to just go based on that, I haven't received it. If it was received at a previous date and it's being handled, then I will update as soon as I have that information.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you, Stephen. I would now like to invite Lyndon Brown of BCN TV. You have the floor.
Good morning to the people of St. Martin and to the ministers that left and that are present here today. Let me engage with Mr. Samuel because I think it's fair that all the ministers must be verbal. Minister Samuel, Minister of Education, there are some burden with children and parents. They cannot access internet for their schoolwork. I mean, and you can tell the people of St. Martin, the from the parents, the children, because it seems like school would not be open right now. But I believe you have the information. But what I'm asking so far, what are the mechanisms you have in place, are pending to help the parents and the children with internet present and in the future? Thank you, Mr. Samuel.
Thank you, Mr. Brown, for the question. Mr. Brown, this question has been on the table from the time the lockdown started, and we had to switch over to online learning, distance learning, so online. And there are basically three issues that plays a role. One is the infrastructure of the IT. Second is the data, the amount of data. And then you have the other issue of whether or not persons have a device. We have done surveys, we have looked into it, and we have had beginning discussions with the companies that provide the infrastructure and the data. These discussions have not been final. So when they are final, I will bring back the results to you and also to the student, teachers, parents, and the public. I thank you for the question, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Minister Samuel. Thank you, Lyndon, for the question. We now move on to the final round of questions. Jeffrey Sokran of Island 92 Radio, you have the floor.
Sorry about that, Rolika. I was just on the air. Really the next question that I wanted to kind of dive into is perhaps more directed towards the Minister of Justice, and I know that she's not here. Perhaps the PM can add some clarity. You know, one of the things that I'm hearing is that there is, even though the Minister of Justice has said a number of times, both in writing in her press releases, and she said it on this very radio program, live on the air, that people will not be penalized by if they are submitting their renewals of temporary residence permits beyond the 3-month deadline because of the closure of immigration related to COVID-19. Her last press release seemed to create even more angst amongst some of the community, insofar as, you know, she's saying, please make sure that it's your responsibility to submit on time. Can we state unequivocally that people reapplying for their temporary residence permit, if they're beyond the 3-month window at this point, due to the closure of the immigration office as it's related to COVID-19, will not be penalized? There's tons of angst out there in the community, and I think it would behoove us all to put it to bed. I would love to hear it directly from the Minister of Justice, but I know she's not here. So perhaps our Honorable Prime Minister might be able to help close that gap.
Yes, I thank you, Dr. Sok. I would also prefer if our Honorable Minister answered that question herself. She has, as you stated it over and over again. And so therefore we can go based on that statement. I do not think that any subsequent press release talking about timeliness is relating to that. It would be for anything moving forward. So anyone who was not able to do what was necessary during COVID-19 will not be penalized. And I believe the minister has said that over and over, and she stands by that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, PM. I just know there's lots of angst out there, and I think we need to keep her calm.
And I think she tried her best to allay those fears again in her opening statement. And I'm thinking that we know how melee spreads much faster than good news, and that is just how it is. And we will do our best to continue to repeat the good news and how you say, count on our media partners to also spread the good news, to allay the fears of the people so that we can move forward with some semblance of peace. It's already a stressful time for the real problems. We do not need to create any new ones. Thank you, Dr. Sok.
Thank you, Prime Minister.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you, Dr. Sok, for that question. I would now like to invite Bibi Shah of SMN News. You have the floor.
Veronica, good morning. Thanks. I'll call upon the Minister of VSR. Minister Panafleck, last week I made a phone call to you regarding the malfunctioning diabetes machine, the control. You told me you were going to look into it. I'd like to have an update on that. I mean, this is a medical issue. We just came out of a medical pandemic and trying to stay safe, but losing people because of known illnesses is not something that we would like to have because of some lack on the side of medical equipment. Apart from that, Minister Panafleck, even though the stimulus are being paid out to employers, there's a lot of cry from employees that government is paying the stimulus, the SSRP is paying X amount, and employees are not receiving the amount that government said they would receive. What is it the Department of Labor or you as a minister have been doing to ensure that workers are not cheated much more than they're cheated before? How is it? What is it you're doing? What do you have in place to make sure that workers are being paid so that they could pay their dues to government?
Thank you. Referring to the first question concerning the default functioning of the equipment that you told me about last week, I have to tell you that I am still waiting to get the necessary information so that I can pass that on and take charge, so that even in the eventuality that something is not right, to straighten it out. Concerning the workers not receiving their payment, as you are indicated it, I will have a conversation with the head of the Labor Department. As I stated priorly, and this I don't want to use it as an excuse, the priority was lying on the COVID situation with everything that goes about it. And then the last couple of days also to make sure that the necessary is being put in place so that we can start opening the border. As I've promised everybody, because even within the ministry, there were complaints that the minister wasn't paying too much attention to labor. It's not that I wasn't paying attention to labor, it's that I wanted to finish off this part and then have my full attention again divided so that labor issues also will be attended with priority. That's why also I will have a meeting with the WICLU as the representative of all the unions of St. Martin for them to be able to tell me their concerns and how we can work further on that. I really would appreciate if you give me the opportunity to get the necessary information, and then we'll get back either to you or I'll make a press release stating those issues that you requested answers to.
Thank you, Minister Panafleck. Thank you, Bibi, for that question. I would now like to invite Stephen Cyrilin of PJD2 Radio. You have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. My final question is for the Minister of ECYS, Dr. Andres Rudolph Samuel. Last week, Minister, you mentioned that repair works was supposed to start at the Martin Luther King School this week. Can you provide a status update? B, what kind of a budget is set aside for school repairs overall? I think you spoke of some 25 schools needing repair works following the 2017 hurricanes.
Thank you, Stephen, for the question. Yesterday, I have had some, what I will call further discussions with the contractor, and the discussions were to make sure that we all are on the same page. And today I would receive some follow-up information from the contractor. If all of that is well, we should see the roof at Martin Luther King School being dismantled this week. So I think it is going well. Important is that we know and we are all on the same page so that when we do start, we can get the project completed for the new school year. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Minister Samuel. Thank you, Stephen, for that question. Lyndon Brown of BCN TV, you have the final question. Yes, Stephen?
Was a
Final question to the Prime Minister.
Lyndon, can you hold on 1 minute, please? Stephen, can you continue?
Yeah, it was a two-part question for the minister. The second part was what kind of a budget is set aside for school repairs? You mentioned last week that some 25 schools needing repair since the passing of hurricanes in 2017. What kind of a budget has been set aside for that, Minister?
Okay. So far, Stephen, on the table at the moment, there was a bid that took place, of which 6 of the 25 schools were taken up in the bid, and that bid is being carried out. That is the discussion that I referred to that took place yesterday. There is a second process that is taking place with the other 19 or 20 institutions, 20 schools that have not been repaired since Hurricane Irma. I have had meetings with NRPB in order to see how we can speed up this process. With NRPB, I have asked them to pull forward 6 of the schools out of the 20 because the program that they have laid out to me would have been too far back. And I am pleased to say that they did not pull 6, but we have now 7 schools, of which we are approaching the issue a little bit different. And I'm very hopeful that these schools will be taken up in the process faster so that we can get them done, so that the students can have a good facility in which they can learn. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Samuel. Thank you, Stephen, for those questions. Lyndon Brown of BCN TV, you have the final floor. You have the final question. My apologies.
Final question. Minister, to the ministers, oftentimes you will hear the word partner in kingdom. I don't know if the interpretation is different in Dutch. I was listening to the Prime Minister, and she mentioned that disregard. It seemed like it doesn't matter what St. Martin bring to the table. It have been rejected. The word disregard. Prime Minister, if this sentiment and this pattern goes on like that, what will be the way? What will be the way out? Will St. Martin continue with this pattern, partner in kingdom, and every time there is a proposal, St. Martin comes to the table with their proposal, there's rejection. What will be the final analysis, Prime Minister? We cannot continue.
Thank you, Mr. Brown, for that question. One thing I think that this COM and of course the interim COM that I led has done or endeavored to do is be transparent to the people of St. Martin. I think transparency is key. A lot of meetings are held behind closed doors. A lot of meetings are held and then you have to come out and carry out tasks. And I was even told at one time, if you don't agree with it, why did you accept it? And it's very clear why we had to, as St. Martin, with our current status, accept. Because any funds that we would want to borrow at this point would have to go through the Netherlands. And Aruba felt that immediately because they subscribed first for a loan on the open market, and they attempted to get money on the open market, and that did not work. So they had to still come back to the Netherlands as our kingdom partners, and within our constitutional status, that's the first line that you go to. They have the first right of refusal. Minister of Finance can probably explain you financially better than me what that means. But whichever option we had, it would have been a path through the Kingdom Council of Ministers. As such, how do we proceed from here? As I mentioned, I sent a letter to my colleague, Prime Minister Rutte. I expect to be receiving an answer. I have also, prior to that, sent a letter to the Raad van State, to the Council of State, to be able to request advice in moving forward. Because we do not have a dispute regulation that would work in our favor, that would give us a, let's say, a fair one that we have any say in. You understand? Our only situation that we have right now is that we go par for the course, we continue to do what we're doing, and any change in Constitution comes from the people of St. Martin. So therefore, it is my prerogative, it is my duty to continue to inform the people of St. Martin with information when the time comes to make a decision as to whether we are continuing forward or pulling back or doing something else. Then that is based on information given, not on half-truths. That's what we've been noticing being published out of certain media houses. And I want to say something else. I believe people on St. Martin, not knowing the repercussions and consequences of their actions and statements on social media, are actually giving the Dutch government ammunition that is based on opinion and not fact. Many people now have an opportunity, yes, freedom of speech, but you must think sometimes, what are the consequences of what you say? I can speak for this Council of Ministers, that we are upright, that we are working diligently to go through a very difficult period that is going on all over the world, all over the world. And when we have discussions with our colleagues, I think it should be based on mutual respect. That is all I ask. Mutual respect. We are asking for a loan, not a handout. Initially, of course, based on our financial situation and it being a crisis, it would have been better for us to get a grant. As a matter of fact, members of parliament in the Dutch Second Chamber did ask the minister, and not a minister, the state secretary who speaks in the parliament also on behalf of the kingdom relations, why it is not a grant. I saw some of the union's placards on social media over the weekend, or it was maybe on Monday, and it stated solidarity, same, if you're going to help jobs in the kingdom, it should be all over the kingdom. But we don't have that. And we're constantly being told about our autonomy. And yes, we have chosen for autonomy, but we have never had the proper starting position. And that is something I'd like to have that discussion with. And then we can have talks. And if we continue to have these talks with respect moving forward in the best interest of our people, and not solely to slap at what has happened in the past, because if we bring up the past, it's a problem. We're bitter. But we must always take and we must always listen. All I'm saying is that St. Martin has been in many reports, even from the kingdom generated, stated as being the best Caribbean island with the best opportunities to come out of this COVID-19, as we did with the hurricanes, come out of it stronger than we were before. Do you want to help us get there or not? That is my only question.
Ms. Malika, I would also like to add to Mr. Brown's question. In reference to his question in terms of partners within the kingdom, I would also like to reference the introduction of the Prime Minister to our meeting from yesterday, where I believe and I see that we are not seen as equal partners within this kingdom. I also believe that when it comes to respect, that the respect given to us, especially our Prime Minister, was definitely not there yesterday, as we had the State Secretary Knopp, and this is my opinion, that spoke to our Prime Minister in a condescending, misogynistic, in such a way that there's no respect for our Prime Minister at all. The Prime Minister has asked for her counterparts to be in meetings. We don't get that either. We've asked for elucidations to agenda points. We don't get it either. But the condescending manner, the tone, the finger pointing, the finger wagging, manner in which the State Secretary spoke to our Prime Minister was highly, in my opinion, disrespectful. And in my opinion, I would have loved if the meeting was recorded so the meeting could have been evaluated by our kingdom partners. And maybe that should be something going forward, actually, that virtual meetings are recorded so we could have it properly evaluated for in the future. Also within our meeting, seeing that as a country, we are now being blamed for World Bank and NRPB. We are now being blamed for construction in the way of about not being done. I think is highly unfortunate. And I believe, again, in my opinion, that we are stuck between a rock and a hard place currently, the rock being COVID-19 and the hard place being the Dutch elections in March next year.
Thank you, Minister Edion. Thank you, Prime Minister, and thank you, Lyndon, for that final question. As that was the final question, this does bring us to the end of the question and answer session. Thank you to all the media partners for being part of this meeting. Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, radio listeners, and online viewers, this does bring us to the end of the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, June 17th, 2020. For a rebroadcast, be sure to tune in to St. Martin Cable TV, channel 115, St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM, the official Facebook page of the Government of St. Martin, and the YouTube channel Government of St. Martin. For video on demand, be sure to log in to the official government's website at stmartingov.org. On behalf of the Department of Communication and the Government of St. Martin, I'm Rolika Roach, and wishing you a pleasant day further.